few months ago, my son apparently reached a point in his life that transitioning into the non-physical was the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And I have learned a great deal in those months in going back through some of the conversations that you've had about suicide and about what we call the death
Every
experience.
death is suicide. Every single time.
What
Because you create your own reality. Sometimes you're a little more specific about it, but you create your own reality.
Well, in creating that reality, it wasn't a certain thing that happened. It was a momentum that I'm not even sure where it started or that that's even important. But I was part of that reality. And I'm kind of wondering the role that, how I created something or could be part of creating something that was so drastic and so far from what I would have wanted.
Well, the most important thing that we want to say to you, and we're happy to have this conversation at this point of the day, because with everything that we've been talking about already today, can you feel that the source within you has an opinion and is having a conversation about that? And can you feel when you sync up with that conversation and when you divert from it?
Oh, yes.
And so, because the first thing that happens is that there is, with most humans, is that there's an assumption that something has gone wrong. So with that basic premise, then there's the question, and what wrongdoing part did I play in this thing that went wrong? In other words, that's sort of the whole underpinning of this conversation. And it's so far from where your inner being is and where your son is and where all that you are is, that you can just feel the offness of your approach to it. That's the most significant thing that we want to say to you.
Okay.
Is that, and we don't think that there's ever would have been a time, or maybe ever will be another time, that you will get that point as clearly as you got it just now on the heels of everything that we've been talking about here today. In other words, you can feel the accuracy, the poignancy, the importance, the rightness of your own guidance system.
Yes.
So you want to begin asking the questions that evoke the answers that feel good. You can't ask a question that feels awful and receive an answer that feels good. Oh, isn't that important to understand? You can't say what went wrong and have anybody ever soothe you, because even though everything that we are wants to soothe you, you're not in the receptive mode when you cue it up with a question like that. You see how it works?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what you want to do, and what he wants you to do, is start looking for all the rightness that you did, all of the things that felt good while you were doing it. Not one thing has gone wrong, and you certainly were not any participator in anything that has gone wrong. First of all, you don't create someone else's reality. You perceive it, and in perceiving it, there can be some influence, but the influence that you offer to others is so minuscule by comparison, you see. Stop taking credit or blame for anything that anybody else is doing, and just recognize that you've come together as co-creative partners in this for the purpose of adding to the whole of the mass consciousness, adding to the whole of the vibrational reality. There is so much going on in this world, and when you look at it as a whole, sometimes humans can get very pessimistic about what's going on.
Yeah.
But if you could stand in the place that we stand and see the value that is being asked for and the rockets that are being launched as a result of what people are living, you would understand that nothing is ever going wrong. And then you just have a simple decision to make for yourself. How do you want to feel now?
Yeah.
How do you want to participate in this wholeness? Do you want to sync up with Source and what Source knows? Or do you want to crawl off into some corner that doesn't feel good and beat the drum of that? In other words, you get to decide, and it really is as simple as choosing what opens you up to the flow or not, you see. So
Yes.
what your son would like you to know now is that, as we said to our friend just before, everything that was before is irrelevant, and he would like you to come to know him as he now bees. He wants you to revel in the wholeness that is him, you see, as he is reveling in the wholeness that is you. Now, sometimes you just want to say, oh, blah, 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 blah. Abraham, can't you bring that in? Can't you make it realer for me? Can't we have a discussion without talking about vibration? Not really. Can't we have a discussion without talking about emotion? Not really. Well, can't we talk about something tangible and real? Yeah. We want you to live happily ever after. But that happily ever after is not ever after. It's all right now. There is no future. It's all right now. It doesn't, when people say, I want it to get better, it can't get better. It's only now. In other words, now's where all of your power is. So right now you've got a choice of how you perceive something, which means in this situation, you have a choice about the way you ask the question. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would be asking the questions that guaranteed an answer that would make us feel good now. So we'd say things like, Abraham, how's he doing? Great. Abraham, is there anything that I should have done differently? Not one single thing. Abraham, is this going to be a big disadvantage or an advantage to me moving forward? The biggest advantage you've ever experienced ever. I can't even think of anything else to ask. Can you?
Yes. How do I go forward with my relationship with him? Because I know there is no death. I know he's not just what you said.
By knowing who he now is and making sure that you're in the receptive mode of that. So if you're hard on him or hard on yourself about any of it, you're not in the receptive mode. If you are looking, we wouldn't spend even time trying to remember things, because that's a sort of treacherous territory, because when you remember, then you get hooked into vibrations, and sometimes there's more momentum in them than you were counting on. We think your words are perfect. How do I move forward? By understanding who he is, not by trying to remember who he was. By taking him in his current state, not in his past state. By looking for him where he is, not looking for him where he isn't.
Wow. Okay.
Really good.
Yes.
Oh, he's really excited. He's really, really excited. Feeling frisky. Yeah.
How did he like the skydive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a big yes. That's a big yes. Enough?
Yes, ma'am.